Welcome back, everybody, to another Digital Gate Studios production. Jeff, he had to be here for this one.
I did.
This is a passion project of mine, and I gave up on it for a long time.
You guys don't understand how much passion he has for this deck.
I got custom mats,
when I first met you, my dude, you were playing this deck.
All right. If you clicked on the video, you know what we're doing, right? We're going Diaboromon. I'm not saying that this is going to win an Ultimate Cup, right? But I think that this is the most competitive version of this deck in this format, and it's going to be the easiest to modify when we do get that Mame in BT11. So we're going to just dive into it. And obviously, you have to start with the Tsunamons, right? So it's going to be your egg. But which Tsunamon do you play? So I play them both, but I prioritize. So we're going to play the 4 of BT5 first because you want that draw, right? I think that's kind of the biggest thing that people lose in Diaboromon is like, I need that card draw. So this helps you when you brick. You can swing with any unidentified and draw a card. So if you do get an extra Caramon, you know, Kursari, and you need to get those in trash for the Sonata effect, you still get to draw that card. So very, very good. And then once again, we're gonna play the other one. So this one's really good for having that big stack. We'll get into which Diaboromons I'm playing, but I do play one of the security attack one, and it is nice for that body to be a little bit stronger, especially in this format, if you're swinging for all those multiple checks, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get into level 3s. Level 3s, the best Caramon, undisputed in this. They released it just to give us a card that we need. I think this was one of the first, like, reveal 5 and get 2 of the 5 cards.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely the best searcher at the time.
Yeah, because you need the Sonata for this deck to work, and that's kind of the theme of this deck. And I've leaned even harder into it, being able to draw that Sonata with some of the choices I've made in my 3s and 4s, almost too far. So I had to back off a little bit because I was drawing a lot.
You had the right idea, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, you need the Sonata. That's the core of your deck.
I think that this is going to be a happy medium. So we're going to jump into the other Caramon that's really, really good in this deck. I only run 2 Caramons. I run the Searcher, and then I run the one that draws cards. Once again, very, very good. Once you're digivolving and you're making those tokens, I think these are all staples in Diaboromon decks. So if you're a Diaboromon fan, I don't have to explain a lot of this stuff to you. That is the alternate art, so I'll have the regular art in the right over here. Very, very good card. So now we're getting into, you know, because we didn't get any updates. We haven't had any Diaboromon stuff since EX1.
I know.
Official.
It's such a drought.
I mean, if you don't count the promo Kursari, which I think we got later.
Our Diaboromon drought is almost as long as the Cowboys doing anything relevant drought.
Yeah. So we did get a card in EX2. We got kind of a set of cards in EX2, right? We got those Drawmons. Yes. The Drawmons that help you with Black Tamer Search.
Yes.
So when they came out with this, I was like, okay, this is kind of what sparked my interest in getting Diaboromon back out on the field and building the deck.
Well, I remember EX2, I was so excited about Justimon.
Yeah.
You were like, this Monodramon is going to be perfect for this deck.
Yeah. So very, very good. 3 cost to play, so it's still not going to break the bank. Still Digivolves for 0. When I saw this, I was like, when I saw the text for this, I was like, oh, that's got to be a 1 cost to Digivolve for sure. But instead, they took it out of the DP and still made it a 0. So it's really weak. But you draw 4 cards and you get all the Black Tamers you get.
That's pretty.
There's been so many times where you throw it down and you'll get like an Izzy and a Sonata or 2 Sonatas and you get to take them all.
Just
right?
tons of good
very,
stuff.
very cool card. It's probably the best searcher outside of this Caramon you're going to get for Black Tamers. And then I run a one of Yazamon.
Wow, did not see that coming.
This is my 2 cost. I have a lot of fun with this. This is really good for choking and really good for building. We do a lot of memory gain in this with the Tamers, with the selection of Tamers we have. So there are times where you have 6 memory. And I mean, we had a couple times today during playtimes. So you can hard play the Jazza for 2. You can Digivolve for Kursari for 2. You can Waru for 2. And then you can get, so for 6 memory, you can get into a Diaboromon from scratch.
That's pretty good.
So it's very strong. I mean, it's just a one of, but it is nice. It is also kind of a good turn 1 if you want to just Digivolve it for 1 and choke your opponent at 1.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty strong. It's 4K. But it's nice just for getting into some of the situations you'll see when we get to our level 5s. So we are getting into level 4s, and so these are kind of tricky too because they're pretty much all Kursari mons. I mean, the Kurisaris, if you don't know, are the heart and soul of the Diaboromon. They give you all the inheritables you need. The inheritables on the Kurisaris are honestly better than the Infernmons or anything else. These are the ones that give it rush, blocker, memory gain, decoy. You know,
That's
the
the one I-
Kurisaris, if you're not running Kurisaris, this deck doesn't work. We've even tried, and that's the weak part in Diaboro Zoo, right? Is you don't get these really cool when digivolving make tokens and get the effects off the token. So we run 4 of the rush. This is the best one.
Yeah,
all
100%.
the way around. I don't know if anyone disagrees with that. The other one's good, like the memory gaining one. But this one, when it digivolves, you get to play a Sonata for free if you don't already have one on the field. So the god move, right, is to play the Kurisari. Like turn 2, your opponent gives you 3. You play the Kurisari Searcher for 3. You get the Kurisari or the Caramon. You get the Kurisari and a Sonata. You digivolve for 2. You get to play a Sonata. So by your next turn,
Yeah,
you
you're
have the
set
whole
up.
setup on.
Yeah.
So very good. And your tokens gain rush. I mean, what's not to love?
That's terrifying.
So I do a 3-3 split next on the next Kurisaris. I run the BT2 gain a memory one. Very good. A lot of people run memory deniers though, so it is kind of situational.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's only a 5-cost hard play.
But it punishes your opponents that don't deck build,
yes,
that play the memory deniers. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it helps you because it lets you digivolve into Diaboromon and keep it your turn. That's the important part about it. So, because there's a lot of times when even all you need is 2 Sonatas with the BT5 Diaboromon, and you digivolve, make 3 tokens. It's a free digivolve.
That's not a once per turn game memory.
No, it's
insane.
It's crazy. It just keeps going and going. And it lets you play the catastrophe cannons for cheap because you do generate that token when you do it. Now, this was one that I was like, when this came out, I was not a huge fan of because I was like, there wasn't crazy removal when it came out. But now that we have such wide removal and Death X, the promo Kurisarimon is very, very strong. I love this card. It's still a 2-cost to digivolve, but it is only a 4-cost hard play. And you'll see why that's important in a minute. But it also gives all of your Digimon decoy with the same name. So very, very good. So not only do you have blockers with the Diaboromon, you have, rush, gain of memory, decoy, all kinds of good stuff. And then, so this one, I've always been a fan of this card, even when I had like my black blocker deck.
That's right, yeah.
The Shademon is really good, pops out of security. It is also unidentified, so it does trigger the Sonata memory gain.
That's the best part about that card.
Very good. So, and it's good, like if you have your memory or your opponent's like playing like Sistermons or something, you need to, stave off for a turn.
Slow them down. Yeah.
You could switch that up and go 4-4-4 and be consistent with the Kurisaris, but I have found that there are times where you're like, you just need to have a blocker on board early game to stop them from just throwing stuff at your security, and getting those easy chips.
There's a reason why I like that Shademon. Fun little level 5 you got coming up.
Yeah. Then we're going to go into Infernmon. I just run 3 of this one. This is the only Infernmon I run. I know a lot of people do like the BT5 one?
Yes.
And the early one that lets you digivolve for cheap into Diaboromon.
Yeah, BT2, that one was really good too.
Yeah. I don't really like those that much. I know one has that on deletion generate a token.
That's the one I like,
You're
right?
trying to, with the decoy, I feel like you're trying to do 2 things that counteract each other because you're trying to keep that alive. You don't want it to die.
Yeah.
But this inheritable is so good. Gives all your tokens plus 2k. And then also, it has that great, when your opponent digivolves into a level 5 or higher, you gain a memory. So it's kind of that, like, I'm going to leave this on the board and my opponent's going to forget about it kind of thing. But I just run 3 of those. And then, moving forward, we have Warumanzemon. So this is... So the whole goal of this deck is to get into Diaboromon for as cheap as possible. As fast as possible. So there are a lot of times, and we do gain a lot of memory with the Tamers. So there are a lot of times where you're going to have 5 memory, and you can play that for 5 and Diaboro in the same turn, gain memory if you have another Diaboromon on the field, or you just generate a ton of tokens with the Sonatas. So it's a good out. It's a good cheap Digivolve. It's just a way to accelerate getting into your primary Diaboromon with the Digivolve, or going into a secondary once you're set up, because you gain so much memory when you do stuff. It's a good way to go into a secondary one. And then now, my favorite card in this deck.
This might be my
favorite card in this deck. This is the spice. This is the good one. Because there's so many times, right, that you are building a Diaboromon stack and you don't have the right Kurisari for the situation. Or you don't have, the right Infernmon or whatever. But how many times have you wanted to have a Diaboromon that has multiple Kurisaris
right
in in the sources.
Yeah.
This Chimeramon is awesome. This Chimeramon lets you Digivolve into a 5 for free, so it's even cheaper than the Waru
Cheaper, yep.
if you have the right pieces. It clears 2Ks. Essentially all your opponents' 2Ks on the board when you tuck a card because it's 2 colors. And it's a beast. It's such a good card. It lets you get into that Diaboromon, add whatever source you want from trash to fit your situation. You get the cool inheritables. I doubled up on this Kurisarimon today. And and gained 2 memory for every token I generated. You can go Decoy Rush. You can just you can add in the Caramon or the Infernmon if that's in your trash and give all your tokens 2K, so you have another level 5 in there. But it's just a good way to accelerate getting into the Diaboromon.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do, right? Like this deck
That's
doesn't
the
do
whole
anything
objective.
until you get there. That's the one detriment of Diaboromon, or one of the detriments, other than the lack of support, is the fact that like if you don't get into the Diaboromon, you lose. So this really facilitates helping you get the draw, the cheap Digivolve, or the free Digivolve, essentially. And that's where the Shademons come in, where they play for free out of security, or you have the 4-cost Kurisarimons that are hard playable if you already have a level 4 on the field, and then you can turn those 2 level 4s into a Diaboromon, essentially, in that turn. So it catches your opponent off guard quite a bit. And once again, the 2-cost level 3 really helps accelerate that when you have 4 memory, and you can play it, Digivolve into Kurisari. You already have another 4 on the field, or Shademon that you had chilling for a little while. Just smack them together, tuck whatever you need, and then all of a sudden you have a really strong boss monster on field. Now, speaking of the boss monsters, we're going to get into my Diaboromon choices. So we're going wide. And I think everyone knows that that's kind of like, if you're going to pick a theme right now in the format, it's go wide. You can either go wide or block, So I do kind of a mix, but I think primarily you want to go wide and you want to go fast. So
especially with the rush.
Yep, you have the rush. You gain the memory. This generates an extra token, so you can either have an extra. This one, if you don't have a Sonata, you can at least get 1 decoy out to save it for the next turn, or you generate 1 memory, so it only costs 2. So it's I think it's the more viable run to run 3 of. And then we run 2 of the blocker. Not much to say about that, other than it's arguably the best Diaboromon in the game right now.
It's got a security effect.
Yeah, it's got a security effect, plays a token, which is nice for when we get to our level 7s, and the Catastrophe Cannons. So it's the only way to play a token in this deck without actually having a Diaboromon make one. So very good. And then, of course, we run the one of the boy.
Yeah.
And I've toyed with taking this out so many times, and we even toyed with taking it out today, and then all of a sudden it cleared your whole security in one swing.
It's
and
like right when you were thinking about taking it out.
Yeah. So, you got to do it. I mean,
but I like that split. I feel like if you had 4 of the security attack plus 1, you'd be way too aggressive too early before you're really set up like you want to be. So,
well, I think it's very good to have this kind of diversity based on like what your opponent's playing. Like if I'm playing against a Bloomlord player, I'm going to play the security attack one all day long.
Oh yeah.
Because nothing's going to hit me, essentially. I mean, obviously there are things in that deck that can hit you for high, but I mean, if I'm like 13k because of the Sunamon, I'm probably going to do all the checks in that deck.
Yeah.
So, but you can diversify. If your opponent's going wide and you want to make a bunch of tokens that are blockers, or if you just want to go rush and fast, So it's very good to have the diversity and the search to help you pick the pieces you want. And then we're getting into the level 7. This card,
I love this card.
I think it gets better with age.
I think so, yeah.
Because the more, grand megas we get, these big boss level 7s, the more you can kind of disrupt that with this, and it really throws your opponents off.
Your opponent has never once had to consider their level 7s when Digivolving effect not triggering.
Yes. My favorite part about this is it stops X antibody pretty much in its tracks.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to give you 7 or 5 or whatever if they have the option, but once they do that, it's just a Digivolve.
Yeah.
They don't get the security trash. They don't get to return all your low or highest play cost to the bottom of the deck. They don't get any of that. So it's really fun to kind of disrupt the meta with this card. And, I mean, even for like early removal, I mean, it was always good against like BT1 Omni and stuff like that. They don't get to delete anything. So it just turns stuff off. And it has Rush. So obviously you swing with the token lives, crash it, play this for 3. It's a good finisher card. It's like the Blitz card for Diaboro, right?
Yeah.
And it's the finisher.
They really did a good job designing that level 7 for the deck for sure.
Going quickly into the Tamers. Not much to say here other than 4 Sonatas.
Other than you need it.
Yeah. Now, there is argument to say that you could switch up and like take out the Shademons and put in 2 Grumbles. You could.
That makes
but
a lot
I
of
feel
sense.
like you really need that protection early in game. So you can mess with it if you want. I tried some Grumbles, but they just, by the time, I never need just one more swing with this. You're always swinging when you have more than enough swings,
Oh, yeah,
essentially.
when you have just a board full of tokens.
As fun as it is to turn this handsome man into a horrible monster, it's I don't think it's needed. And then I run one of Izzy and Joe because your opponent tends to always have more than one Digimon on the field when they're playing against this deck. So
Absolutely.
it techs in a lot of memory gain. And then I also play one Black Izzy. So combinationally of the, I don't even think that's a word, but in combination of all these, you gain a ton of memory. That's why I wanted
9 memory every turn.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to switch it up. I did toy with running like 2 Izzies, but then it's a little too situational. Then I tried to run with 2 of this Izzy, and I didn't need as much deck control. And there's a lot of white cards in this deck, so you don't always get that memory back.
Yeah.
But it is nice to have a tamer that sets it, a tamer that gives you 2, and then a tamer that gives you 1 for everything. And so very good diversity there. And then just 2 options, guys. Just 2.
Just 2.
I know you're gonna be like, "Where's the ultimate flare? It's in the lore, all that crap." There's no room for it.
I mean, that's more in the lore technically, because that's a Diaboro effect more than Armageddon. But yeah.
So Catastrophe Cannon, I've had the pre-release cards for this since the very first version of the deck that I built, years ago. Very, very good card. Even if you have a token on the board that like comes from the Diaboromon, you get to either de-digivolve and generate another token. So
very nice.
Very good in this format. Gets rid of like the Omnimon X antibodies, Black War Greys until they get the protection, all that good stuff. So that's the deck, guys. I think this is the most reliable way to play it. Jeff, you've play tested against this. What do you think?
Stop playing it.
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that you go so wide with Rush, Decoy, Blocker, absolutely menace to deal with, and yeah, it's scary. It's terrifying.
If you guys haven't tried it with the Chimeramon, it might change your mind on how good this deck can be.
Yes.
Like I said, it's not going to win Ultimate Cups, but it is fun to play and it's fun to disrupt. So that's what we got for you guys today. Any last words? All right. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Hit us up on Facebook. Check us out. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.